Hello guys, in this video we are going to discuss a very important point. So we will be discussing how you should be making notes, right? So the revision notes, the exam ready notes, now how it is going to help you with revision, retention and presentation, everything we'll be discussing. And if you look at the podcast with my mentees, I'm talking about those in the top 100 because they're not making strategies, what actually, keep them separate from others, right? And that's how they were able to score that 1-2 mark extra in each of the question, and that ultimately help you to improve 70 to 80 marks compared to others. So what the strategy that they have followed, if you look at the podcast, whether it is Vikas or Kiran 53rd rank, or Sachin 41st rank, and Rohin 39th rank, Sonali it is 89th rank. I'll attach all those podcasts also, but I'm discussing the summary, right, from what we have done and what I have guided them and what they have done and how they have done. So the summary is actually what I'm discussing, how they made the note, the revision notes, the exam notes, how they compress the content, how they read the content, how they compress the content, and how they write it, and how they rewrite it again, right? So from revision note to exam note, so important points to finally keywords. So this is how you should be preparing the note, and that exactly is what I'm going to discuss. I'll also attach the podcast of all my mentees, not just these top, those in the top 100, but others also can go through each of them. Almost the similar strategies what all my mentees are following, right? And it got rewarded also. So that's exactly what I'm discussing here. In fact, if you see, when it comes to the preparation, the biggest misconception is your selection depends on how many book you read. Many people tell you that so much of breadth of knowledge is required, as much as you need to as much as possible you need to read, and everything is there, right? And because of that itself, when you start preparation, you'll start collecting that NCRT. Someone told you that's the basic, so NCRT, and then comes some standard books, right? Your polity, Lakshmikant, history, spectrum, and like that you will have some NCRT, then standard books, and then you join some coaching. From there you will get some yellow books or white books or whatever they call it, right? The coaching notes, right? You will be getting that. And then once you start preparing for it, you will come across some toppers notes. So this topper I've prepared this way, and his notes will cover everything. So it's the same thing, right? Then you collect that, and then random PDFs also you will see, and you will collect that, and monthly magazines you will collect that, and then you go to Telegram and you will see so many things there, and you will collect that. So your study table keep growing. In fact, during my preparation, one of my hostel mate, roommate, in fact, because of him, even I also did the same thing. You keep collecting the materials. Initially you'll have a table, you start with a table, one corner of the table, and the table will get filled, right? And then what happens, you'll start shifting rest of the books now to the bed, so the bed is also getting filled, and you'll have to sleep in the floor. And now also, if I visit my mentees, I can recollect, I can see the same. In fact, it's very nostalgic also. I visit to the hostels, I visit to my mentees rooms also. This is exactly the same thing that I am seeing, which I have seen 15 years back in my room with my friends at that time. The same I'm witnessing with my mentees also. So this is one of the mistake, right? Unfortunately, you keep collecting the materials, but your mark is not improving because UPSC is not rewarding students who collect more maximum material or most of the materials. UPSC is rewarding those students. Yes, you need materials, but are you able to process it? Are you able to compress it? Are you able to revise it? Can you retain it? Can you reproduce it? Right? Whatever information you read, you need to process, you need to compress, you need to revise, you need to retain, you need to reproduce presentation. Only then, if you can do all these, especially reproduction of that information that you have learned efficiently, you'll be getting the marks. So the real challenge in UPSC is not reading. You can keep reading unlimited, time and unlimited resources. The real challenge is remembering what you have read, process, interconnecting, compress, revise, reproduction. Most important is how you're going to use the knowledge in the exam hall, the knowledge how you're going to interlink. So we will be discussing that in this session. I know it's a lengthy introduction, but this is one of the problem that I faced in the beginning, because I used to have all the textbooks, and beyond that, even Hindu, Indian Express, Times of India, Business Standard, for newspaper also, I used to read, and that itself will take my 5 hours, right? So I'll be discussing all of these. See, in fact, when it comes to the aspirants, let's talk from my mentees, right? What I'm seeing now I can see from a third person's perspective, so I can discuss in a much better way. If I explain from my experience, it's, I think, better to explain from a person's perspective. So what I can understand, what I see, that you thinkers, you are thinking that I've completed the book, I have attended. See, in fact, this is what my mentees also tell me. I've completed this book, I have completed the classes, and I have highlighted everything. Therefore, I'm prepared. So you think that you read it, you attended the class, you highlighted. Sometimes you might have written also some notes, and I'm done. My preparation is done, right? But let me tell you guys, that's a dangerous illusion. So your preparation actually begins only after your reading. That's when the preparation actually begins. The real preparation actually starts, when you begin to organize the information which you have read, or when you compress the information which you have read, and when you can revise this information and apply those information, you can interconnect those information, and you can retain those information, and you can reproduce those information. Unless this happens, reading alone has have very little value or no value at all, right? So knowledge over a period of time, what should happen is it should become smaller with time. Many students keep adding materials throughout the year, and you're not become. In fact, I want a 100-page revision note and maybe a 50-page exam ready notes only with the keywords. But by the time you complete that 1 year preparation, you start with 100 page, then go to 300 page, and then go to 700 page, and then to 1500 page. And just before the examination, you realize that you cannot revise anything. This is exactly opposite of what should have happened. This is exactly opposite of what my mentees have done. Whether it is Sonali, whether it is Kiran, whether it is Sachin, whether it is Rohin, whether it is Vikas, whether it is Nilesh. So they have not, collected so much of sources, right? So as the examination approaches, what need to happen is your material should become smaller. That's why I told you, even if you have a revision note of 100 pages, 100 topic, 100 page, one topic, one page, 10 points. When I'm talking about exam note, that should be 50 pages with the keywords only, and that keyword should trigger that entire, concepts. So your notes should become smaller, but your understanding become deeper, and your revision should become faster. And you see, there is a process, right? When I say a good preparation, you will start with, of course, large material, because you need to read a lot, you need to understand things. So you start with larger source. From there, you read, you understand. What you do, you make a short note from what you understood. For example, one paragraph, you will make it into one sentence, and then from that you make micro notes, and finally from that you will take the keywords and you memorize that. I don't want to memorize the last material. How is it going to be possible? And I would say there are 3 layers for note making. So let me give you a note making system. What is that first layer? Layer 1. You'll have a detailed notes that contain everything, the complete understanding, the concepts, the examples, the report, the current affairs, everything, right? And these are for your learning. These are your learning notes. It's a textbook, it's your coaching notes, etc. That's learning note for understanding the concept, and that's big, right? Then comes layer 2. So this is going to be your revision note. So you compress that learning note here. So you remove all the explanation. You keep only that important points, important keywords, important thinkers, important frameworks, important diagrams, important facts, the block diagrams. These becomes your revision note. And when it comes to the third layer, third level of preparation, that's going to be your micro notes. And this is the final version. So just before the examination, what you're going to revise is this one, where you only have the keywords. You should ideally revise only 1 page for every major topic, whether it is optional, whether it is GS. Optional also, you have 100 topics, you have 100 pages, right? And for each of the topic, you will have 10 points. The moment you see that, the keywords, the thinkers, the examples, and everything should automatically trigger in your mind. So that page should trigger the entire topic in your mind. And that's how toppers revise that enormous syllabus within few days, within a day. Even I can revise in 1 hour if I have that 50-page note. Because every day, evening or night, I keep on doing this, revising it. So I can just turn the pages and I can see that, and that immediately trigger in my mind. The entire topic will come to me. And very important point, guys, write all your notes in your own language. One of the biggest mistake, that what you do is simply printing the topper notes. You take their language, or you read the newspaper when you're taking the notes from that, you exactly use the same language. See, reading somebody else's note, that is useful for understanding, but writing your notes, That creates memory and that will help you to remember. So whenever possible, always rewrite the concept in your own words, whether it is optional, unless it's a major definition. You have to rewrite in your own words, in your own language. You understood a concept editorial article in newspaper, you write in your way, words, in your language. See, in fact, sometimes it can be mixing with English with your local language also. I've seen when I'm evaluating, when I look at the notes which is made by my mentees, what I see is mostly English plus Hindi. Not everything need to be in English. Because if that is there, it may help you to retain. I've seen English plus Malayalam, right? I can only understand English, Hindi, English, Malayalam, and English, and to an extent English, Tamil also. I've seen that. So many are doing this. Many toppers have done this. So the objective is not beautiful notes. The objective is memorable notes. So what help you to memorize easy, whether it is your local language, regional language, you use that. A combination of that you can use, right? And I told you a large source you'll start with. Do not copy the entire book. Then it is just a photocopy, right? So you have a book or the notebook, right? And if you have exactly the same content in both, nothing have changed. What does that mean? Is that not making? This is photocopying, and photocopying not with machine, photocopying with your hands, right? So good note means what? It should remove all unnecessary information, unnecessary examples, unnecessary explanation. So every revision, it should reduce the volume, right? And you need to ask yourself, can I express this idea in one line instead of this entire one paragraph? So you read a paragraph, can I summarize this in one line, right? So can this paragraph become 5 keywords? If I get the 5 keywords, can I remember the entire things which has been discussed in this paragraph? Can this entire chapter or this topic become one page? This is what I mean by intelligent note making, and this is how you should be making, right? Every topic should pass through multiple stages of compression. For example, suppose you're studying, let's say, jobless growth. So initially, when you're learning, you'll be having your class notes, your textbook notes, and everything. So it might be 4 pages, 5 pages. Once you read that, you will reduce it into one page in your own language. Accept that definition, accept the facts, accept the data. Everything else should be in your own language. And then what you do is you make it into micro notes. That's a half page. And then 5 or 6 trigger words. For example, when I see jobless growth, these are the trigger words. It could be dimension, it could be whatever. That trigger words is what I remember. So that trigger words should activate the complete concept in your mind. The moment you keep revising, entire concept should come to your mind. And that's what I mean by efficient revision. And that's exactly what toppers do. That's exactly what I want you to do if you want to be the topper. Right? Now, you read a topic. I've seen many students begin memorizing immediately. What's the point? This is inefficient. First you understand, then you simplify, then you revise, then you memorize. Then after that you memorize, or you write and then you memorize. So when you understood the concept, memorization is becoming so much easier. Because if you understand, it always reduces the burden of memory. Of course, you need to memorize, but not everything, right? Not every paragraph, not every example, not every explanation. All these should come from within, from your side. So understand the concepts and then you can do it. We just need that keywords. If at all you need to memorize something, it is that important, the summary, the keywords, right? And you need to create, the standard frameworks. See, many UPSC questions repeatedly ask similar dimension, right? So how you can get it, you can do it from PYQ analysis. We have identified different themes, right? For example, literature. So instead of creating a new structure every time, you prepare one standard framework. For example, this context, the theme, the characteristics, the impact, the contemporary relevance. And whenever a literature question appears, the framework is already available to you. You only need to insert the content. So that dramatically improve your writing speed also. For example, any question is asking, you just 15 marker. You need 15 marker means 15 points you need to write ideally. 1 point, 1 mark. That's how it is, right? In 12 minutes. But instead of recollecting, thinking for 15 points, you can simply think about 5 dimensions. And for each dimension, it is easy to get 3 points, out of which one best point you will write as the first. And that's how you impress the examiner. You covered the maximum dimension. Breadth is also increased in your answer. And you touched all the areas and you address the demand of the question also. So you need to have the framework, whether it is pastel or medics, right? When it comes to international relation, we follow medics, or in general, we follow pastel. Right? There are universal templates and that saves time. Any subject you take, history, society, governance, international relation, ethics, You create templates. We have discussed it in many YouTube videos. This is exactly what I do with my mentees also. For example, every governance question, you can talk about the present status, the challenges, the causes, the implications, the key forward, the way forward. So the structure remains stable, and once you have the framework, once you have the structure, you just need only to change the content. Even for ethics also it's similar. When you solve the case study also it's a similar. So that reduce thinking time, and that increase the writing speed also during examination. And we need some universal introductions and conclusions. See, topics can be different, but there can be some, it's not that one conclusion and introduction for all. There can be this, again, I'm talking about the structure. Many students, they make one mistake, that, try to create introduction in the exam hall. But we need to have the structure, prepare some universal introductions, the pattern, the format. For example, international relation question is asked. So you can always conclude, right? Whether it is India, China, whether it is India, Pakistan, etc. You talk about in conclusion mutual respect. You talk about shared prosperity, sustainable development, rule-based international order, Vasudhaiva Kudumbakam. So all these are in general, any international question, whether it is India, China, India, US, India, any country, you can write this. Similarly, society, you see, if you are getting questions from society, you can conclude with inclusive growth, constitutional values, social harmony, human dignity, and that saves time and improve consistency, improve dimensions, improve depth, improve your conclusion, and that is going to reward you immensely. Now you have made the notes. Now here you need to integrate the current affair, right? It should not remain separate. Whenever you read newspaper, you ask yourself, which topic of GS does this strengthen? Where I can use this as an example? Which ethics keyword can I use this example? Which essay dimension does this actually support? If your optional is sociology, whatever, which sociology concept can this applicable or illustrate? So one current affair, but it should strengthen multiple subjects. It is even when ethics also, I've told you, it is not that for different concepts, integrity, accountability, compassion, you don't want to multiple examples. You need to think about one example, or you need to think about one current affair which you can use in multiple cases. That reduce your time, that reduce your effort, that increase your efficiency and the capacity to retain. Now, revision not been discussed. We need exam ready keywords. When we talk about ethics, I always talk about ethics language, ethical language, right? Again, certain topics can be remembered through keywords rather than paragraphs. For example, you see, instead of revisiting or revising the entire page, you just need to remember some reports, committees, constitutional articles, schemes, indices. Okay, indices, important diagrams, block diagrams, like that. So that so I was talking about, yeah. Now coming to not making, see, now if you don't want to do it, but you have to do it, because ultimately you are the one who need to remember, you are the one who need to refine everything, you are the one who need to reproduce, but you can still use technology. If you use it correctly, you can use it as, saving enormous amount of time. It can help you to generate the keywords, right? It can help you to compress the notes. It will identify the previous year question and the themes. It can prepare ethical dilemmas, generate practice questions, and it can find the gaps in your preparation. But again, one point is, you need to remember that AI should assist you in thinking. It should be an assistant. Thinking should be done by you. It should never replace your thinking, because you are the one who need to think during the exam. You are the one who need to reproduce also during the exam, right? So you can use it. Now coming to ethics. See guys, ethics, as you think, it does not require hundreds. So I myself was ethics topper that year, 2014. So my mentees also, if you look at Sachin as the ethics topper last year. So what you need is, you need to prepare the keywords. Ethics have a language. You need keywords, you need definition, you need examples. Multi-use case examples is what we need. Case study frameworks we need. Common dilemmas, right? Many ethical situations will repeat in different forms. So once you can understand the underlying ethical conflict, in any situation in life also, if you can look at the ethical conflict involved in that, right, you can adapt it to multiple questions. So the objectivity is basically flexibility. So in ethics, if you are looking to memorize things, that is not going to work out. Ethics also should be done in this way. And we will be discussing further. In fact, I've already done a video on ethics, so I'm not getting into the depth of that in this session. So coming to answer writing. Now, when you have a good knot, if you have made it like this, what I told you, your answers also will automatically become good, right? If your knot contain the keyword, if your knots have the framework and examples and the diagrams and the current affair, their answers should become much, much easier. Eventually, one page of knot, that should be enough to write your entire answer. And that's the real test of effective preparation. Now, this will help you to revise again and again. That is why short knot making is very important. One revision is never enough. The true mastery comes from multiple repeated exposure. So every revision actually give you confidence, that remove hesitation. Every revision, in fact, increase your recall speed, help you to memorize more, right? In fact, that will help your efficiency also. Every revision improve confidence also. And with multiple revisions, your speed of revision will also increase. And during exam, you just need 1 hour to revise. Even the afternoon paper, you can revise it in 1 hour in that gap itself. So the goal is not merely to remember. The goal is to recall instantly during the examination. For that, multiple revision is required. Cool. Your notes is the one which is going to reduce the exam stress. Imagine entering the exam hall knowing that I've revised every important topic multiple times. The moment I see this word in the question, it will trigger automatically and I'll be in a position to write. That confidence, that comes from where? If you have that intelligent note making, if you have done like this, it won't come just by reading new and more books. So if you have good notes, if you made it like this, that reduce anxiety, because that is giving you some kind of confidence and that is creating some kind of certainty, right? That I've done this, I've prepared this, and I'm confident also. So this is how it is, right? You have big notes. For example, when I start the preparation of a topic, I may have 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages. Coaching notes I've learned, textbooks also I've learned. So for learning, that is required. From that, I'll understand. And then I compress. And then I write the notes. And that is something which I'm going to revise. And that I'll apply and I'll write also. After this, I'll keep doing refinement upon that. I'll compress again. So you will have to pass through this cycle again and again. The more you go with this cycle, every cycle make your preparation stronger. Every cycle reduce your dependence on that bulky material. If the more you go through this, finally you will have keywords. The moment you see the keywords, it will trigger your mind that this concept completely that you know, and it give you the confidence also. So guys, when it comes to UPSC, success is not determined by the number of books you own, nor the number of books you read. That's a dangerous illusion. So your success is, in fact, let me tell you, Vikas, Kiran, these people from previous mains, they have not added much on content. They have changed the strategy in which how they read the content, how they make the note, how they present their answer. That's the only improvement that they did. So your success is determined by the quality of knowledge, that if you can reproduce or not under that exam pressure. And the best aspirants are not those who collect the most information. They are those who organize it intelligently, those who compress it, and those who revise it repeatedly and consistently and apply and present it effectively, efficiently, the information that you have. So your knot should become smaller every month. Every cycle you go through, it should keep becoming smaller. But your understanding should become much, much deeper every month. So the more the knots become smaller, your understanding becomes bigger, deeper. If that happens, revision is going to be easier. Answer writing is going to be faster. Confidence will increase and your chances of success improve dramatically. Remember, guys, UPSC is not an examination of information accumulation. It is an examination of intelligent knowledge management. So if you do like this, you are going to be there. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much. I see you in the next video.